Greetings and hello. You may be aware of recent controversy around such actors as Rachel Zegler or even Peter Dinklage. This is specifically about the latest Snow White films. As this channel is Grim Tales, we should probably take a moment and cover these public relations nightmares. How can one answer to all of these nasty concerns involving millions? Long story short, this story has been around for centuries, if not eons. And by these stories, I mean the tales that are known as Grim Tales. Specifically around Snow White, there are at least 7 Hollywood versions of this film, with many different takes, with much wider writing, casting, and marketing choices. Research this if you will, but none are exactly faithful to the Germanic stolen version by the Brothers Grimm. In fact, the only thing Disney holds copyrights to, as far as I know, are the characters. The rest of the story is not even under open gaming licenses. You, or anyone else, can do whatever you please with it. Do you find that Snow White, Red Rider, Bully and the Beastie, and all other Grimm tales are fraught with a certain amount of ethical peril? Do you find that the main characters do things that are possibly correct in some ways, but incorrect in many others? Yeah, well, I would strongly recommend you play your game story avoiding certain disaster. The best way to do this is make sure you do your session 0. Get together with your fellow players before even the first dice roll. That way, with this in mind, let us cover one of the best fairy fantasy gaming plot devices in this game. I'm going to cover the 5 versions of the Imprisonment spell. Imprisonment. These 5 versions have a lot in common. Since 1974, this quattro of versions of this spell specifically allow you to easily plug so many Grim Tale variants and scenarios into your game. True, no matter what version you use requires a minute-long cast. It only works should the target fail their wisdom, checking, saving, throw, rolling stuff. So you'll want to bring along your divination wizard to make sure the spell actually works, because recasts with this spell between the one caster and that target, any reattempts will always fail. Once this spell succeeds, all 5 versions have a lot in common. The target recipient does not age, and they don't need food, nor water, nor air, nor even Wi-Fi. Picture suspended animation type magic. Also, just like many Grimtail magic, there must be a condition that ends this spell. Something's got to happen for the magic to end, unless it's dispelled directly with dispel magic. All versions of Dungeons & Dragons suggest that this can be as intricate or straightforward as you like, but please keep in mind your game master has the final nod and say on this event. It must be both plausible and possible. Thematically speaking, you really want to get this plot device right, because it makes for excellent game mechanics, story investment, player agency, and verisimilitude. I'm saying it again. Verisimilitude. The most popular of the 5 versions tends to be the sleep slumber format. This was used both in Sleeping Beauty and Snow White. This means your target creature is akin to a limp mannequin, regardless of whether they're a humanoid or dragon or anything else that you put into sleep slumber. You can take this creature and put them underwater in your fish tank, as long as it's big enough. You could coat it in wax, dress it up, put it on display in Amsterdam, encase it in a bottle, hide it in a suit of plate mail, fashion it into a living lamp,
complete with LED wiring.
Possibilities abound. Adventure idea? Say the head of a dragon appears mounted on a tavern wall. Clever trick. Unbeknownst to patrons, the neck connects through the wall in the next room and the rest of this massive body in other adjacent connecting rooms and basement levels. With the right healing spells and amputations, this limitless supply of components for magical items and spells and stuff, until somehow the conditions are met and this drake awakens. Rules as written: this sleeping creature takes a short or long rest depending on timing and scheduling. Imagine your player helping a badly amputated blue dragon that wants to get revenge on the town that was using up its body for scrap parts over the centuries. For an added extra bonus twist, you could have your local wizard removing this anti-aging property from the spell's magic so that they would continue gaining more and more of these components. But this also means that the dragon will age and become more and more powerful. It also means that this could be the reason why the dragon spell eventually failed. It's brilliant! Brilliant, I tell you! If the dragon went to sleep a wormling and is woken up now as a full adult or even ancient, he would have the mind of a genius child, complete with their vulnerability and those terrible temper tantrums. Blue dragons in lore are especially cool because they have this lawful evil style, so they can be extremely loyal and faithful. And they might be willing to help somebody out for several thousand years should they get enchanted troll's blood and give them their limbs back. Hint, hint. This dragon could also be creatively vengeful, so be sure to check in with your group's ethical limitations and flexibility and open-mindedness as your blue dragon extorts its vengeance upon the neighboring towns. Rules do not specify if such a sleeping target is subject to spells like Modify Memory, Dream, or even Message Cantrip. So many possibilities with these. It is also not known if this spell temporarily fails within anti-magic or dead zones and or mischievous beholder central eye. Does it also work on golems or undead and any other sleepless creature? The second version we look at here is Burial. Picture the target is captured by a sort of life-size fitting gerbil hamster running ball, and then suddenly they're pulled deep beneath the earth.
The spell doesn't specify how deep.
The spell does not say if you fall asleep in this thing or if this is an extreme method of torture. Think about it in a small body-sized ball for the rest of time in the dark. Let us hope that the target went to the bathroom first. So let's take some guesses.
How far beneath the earth this is?
This thing has to go somewhere, right? And now, since the invention of this spell, they've also created this thing called the Underdark. That means any drow town or deep dragon's lair may suddenly have any number of these glassy force spheres dropping in on them over the years. One assumes this spell makes a soft, spongy force ball walls that is invulnerable, and the occupant is immune to falling damage in this force sponginess. The spell description says nothing passes through the sphere, but logic and tradition will dictate otherwise. Obviously, light should pass through just fine, therefore maybe radiant energy, DM permitting. Force and disintegration energies may or may not cut or break this thing open. Once again, consult with your DM, mileage may vary.
Next!
The chaining variation is intriguing, as the rules give few specifics around how these chains come into play. It only says that the captured target simply cannot move whatsoever. If you look up restrained, and the long and short of that, it means free folk can attack with advantage, while this chained restrained creature faces disadvantage. It does not mean absolutely unable to move, including the flickering of eyeballs or the twitching of toes. And what does move or not move relatively to what mean? Does that mean you relatively cannot move to the nearest building or section of floor beneath them, relative to the chains somehow? Consider the following thematic adventure ideas as interpretations and possible adventure lore purposes. Your bondage may vary. Let's go. Picture rows of sorceress workers chained to their desks assembling magic items, and these chains tighten if their production gets a bit too slow. Try out one captive as a marionette puppet on these chains. A clock tower could be powered by a singular creature that must re-pull the weight chains every day. A prison could have flowing chains everywhere. The chain keeper, the keeper of the prison, cannot leave. A fountain that could have the chains made of water, so the captive cannot leave even as they're on display for the entire town. These chains could even be made of silk cloth ribbons, and the victim has their own stage to perform on for eternity. How about a cloud castle that may contain a sky sage with many different sizable telescopes pointing in all directions? This watcher knows so much, though is powerless to do anything about it. Let's dive into minimus containment, shall we? Here, you get shrunk down to the size of a Dungeons & Dragons miniature, about an inch, and whoever it is stuck inside a gemstone or other similar glassy object. Think of the mirror on the wall. It could show just their face and have the power to speak, as it did in Shrek. As it says in the rules that they can see you and you can see them, what spells or spell-like abilities could work when they're clearly within one of the versions of line of sight? Your dang DM may rule that this spell places the target creature on another plane similar to a bag of holding and that none of these things apply. Rules specify that this glassy gem-like home object, once inhabited, is
Absolutely unbreakable.
until the person inside of it gets out. This makes extremely fragile objects shatterproof. So let's try out the list again, shall we? Picture yourself an indestructible marble golem, semi-transparent, translucent, with the person's image dashing around within, helpless. Or if you like, you could make this inner golem dweller with the power to command the golem itself, surprising everyone, including the DM. Gem-studded filigree shields that blast light. Imagine a complex glass fiber optic Mobius chandelier type modern art type thing, really complex one-piece gemstone commanding the lights and possibly radiant blasts throughout a dance ball hall. How about another group of magic mirrors that discuss things with their own special undead butler shadows to order about? Can't you right now imagine their super dark tuxedos from here? So cool! Sand trickling with a haunted hourglass shows the approximate for which century the release would be. The captive may be like a tiny sand figure person at the bottom of the bulb section. A floating lantern that is secretly a
Spy.
striving to earn their freedom from their latest master who happens to be holding the glass key to their freedom. How about some tricky glass slippers that, despite their fame, can adjust their size, fooling an unwitting prince into fitting these onto a terrifically seductive succubus rather than the rightful woman of the royal destiny? How about a fob-based pocket watch compass thing that will be able to show you the time or the place on its face? How about a telescope eyepiece type thing that can see close-ish or even very far, optionally showing viewers even memories and dreams from the tube's captive? Oh, the possibilities! Last but not least, we have
Hedged prison.
here the target victim is simply sent away to their own private demiplane, complete with its own architecture of the caster's choice. The spell suggests things like an endless Escher-Mobius-style maze or some sort of captive high tower, but basically you can use any enclosed space or area that you like, such as a tiny cottage surrounded by impassable trees, a sealed train on tracks running forever, a desert isle of any size or complexity with any number of tree houses, as no one can get in or out. The Archmage might well cast this upon themselves, or any other creature that needs to escape troublesome events for a few centuries, though the target would, no doubt, really need a Wi-Fi password in this case. This is a great place to entertain, train, regain, and remain. Having multiple creatures able to enter the same dimension space area really increases the tension. You could make yourself a private Thunderdome type situation, but because all of these versions completely ban any form of scrying, didn't mention that earlier, you would not know the results of what happened. Design the interior of this demi-plane as kind of a corporate escape room thing, allowing one or more of the captives in there to discover and unlock their own path and way to freedom. That's it. If you like this, give it that thumb, the Midas touch. If you want more ideas on any of these variants, please let me know. I love to hear back from you guys. So now, off you go. Make your very own Disney Grimm fairy tale adventure abominations, and please let me know what you come up with.